Welcome back to Interpreter of Maladies, Part 5. Let us refresh your memory. The on by Mrs. Das towards Mr. Kapasi after learning about his profession made him feel flattered. He felt himself attracted to her. He longed to see her and to be in presence of her. He secretly expected that their relationship will grow in future. So we have seen how infatuated Mr. Kapasi was towards Mrs. Das after she had expressed an interest in him, and uh, he feels very much attracted towards her during the whole trip. So when she asked for his address, his infatuation grew even more. He thought that he dreamt that their correspondence will continue, will progress in future. So now let us move on to the story. Let us continue. They reached Konark by 2:30 and saw the Sun Temple. Mr. Kapasi explained to them the history of the temple, that it was built between AD 1243 and 1255 by the great ruler of Ganga dynasty, King Narasimhadeva I. Mr. Das reads aloud from the book in his hand about the features of the temple. They noticed and admired the exterior of the temple, the sculptures, the erotic statues depicting various sexual positions. Mr. Kapasi was happy that they liked the temple, especially Mrs. Das. Here you can see the temple, Sun Temple at Konark. So this tells about their trip to Konark Temple, how they reacted when they saw it, etc. The erotic statues on the walls of the temple made Mr. Kapasi think about his unfulfilled sexual desires with his wife and about his future desires for Mrs. Das. He felt that she was different from all previous foreign women he had taken to the temple. They were only interested in the sights they see. But Mrs. Das was the first one to take an interest in him. So uh, there are many uh, erotic statues on the walls of the temple, and when they watched them, uh, Mr. Kapasi thought about the unfulfilled sexual desires he had with his wife and about the future dreams with Mrs. Das. So he uh, thinks that Mrs. Das is quite different from all previous women he had taken to see the temple. Those people were only interested in the sights they see, but Mrs. Das is the first one to take an interest in him. Okay, when she asked doubts about this, very much pleased. He dreamt of the correspondence uh, they will do in future. Uh, he explaining about India and she about America. So this tells about him continuing to dream about their future correspondence. He imagines that he will tell things about India to her and she will be telling things about America to him. Now, after sightseeing, they returned to the hotel they were staying. Mr. Kapasi felt that he was very sad to leave them. He kept looking at her through the rear view mirror. He thought of some ways to delay the tour in order to be with her for more time. So he suggested visiting the hills at Udayagiri and Kandagiri, where they are where where there are many monastic dwellings, means ancient monasteries. They agreed and started for the mentioned places. Happily, Mr. Kapasi continued to dream about what he will say and do if he gets a chance. He even thought of holding her hand when her husband is not looking. So, when they reached the place, Mrs. Das didn't get out of the car as her legs were tired. Mr. Das took the children along with them. There were a lot of monkeys, and children were delighted. After a while, she got out of the car and walked along with Mr. Kapasi. They observed Bobby, the younger son, exchanging a stick back and forth between a monkey. Seeing this, Kapasi commented that he was a brave boy. To this, Mrs. Das replied that it was not a surprise and that Bobby was not Raj Raj's son. Raj is the name of Mr. Das. So she told her that Bobby was not actually Mr. Das's son. This revelation or this revealing was really a shock to Mr. Kapasi. His mouth dried. She continued that it was a secret that nobody knows. She kept it as a secret for 8 whole years. Now she revealed it to Kapasi as well. But Mr. Kapasi was shattered to hear this. So this is a very important turn in the story. So Kapasi was head over heels in love with um, Mrs. Das. It was at this particular juncture that Mrs. Dat reveals a very important secret in her life to Mr. Kapasi, that her younger son Bobby is not actually the son of Mr. Das. So, being in love with Mrs. Das, this was really a shock to Mr. Kapasi. So, to comment on this today's portion, today's lesson tells about uh, the Das family's visit to Sun Temple at Konark and to the hills at Udayagiri and Kandagiri. Mr. Kapasi's attraction to Mrs. Das continued. He continued to dream about their relationships in future, but all his ideals about Mrs. Das was shattered when she casually revealed to him that her younger son Bobby was not her husband's. So we are stopping there and we will continue later.